Hello and welcome to Relatively Crafty, a knitting podcast. I am your host, Christy. I come to you from the Denver area of Colorado, where I live with my husband, Ron, and our two daughters, Tatum and Delaney, along with our tuxedo kitty, Lilu. If you're looking for me, you can find me on Ravelry as Cristi-Lael and on Instagram as Cristi-Lael without the dash. We also have a Relatively Crafty group on Ravelry where we have knit-alongs and giveaways and all kinds of fun stuff. We are currently hosting the Spring Stuffy knit-along, which goes for the entirety of spring, so March 19th to June 20th, I believe.
Follows me now.
Kids and cats. What are you gonna do? Anyway, and in the KAL, you're just encouraged to make a stuffy any way you want to make it, as long as it's plush and filled with something and cute. It's okay. So yeah, you have quite a while. You know, it's just started a couple of weeks ago. So yeah, make stuffies to your heart's delight. I am podcasting a day early today because, meaning that I'm podcasting on Tuesday instead of Wednesday like I normally do. And I am doing that because I'm having I have a doctor's appointment tomorrow afternoon after I get off of work, and I don't think I will feel up to it, nor will I have time to podcast after the doctor's appointment. So I just got off work today, and I figured, well, I might as well do it now and kind of have it done, and then I don't have to think about it tomorrow. So let's go ahead and get into the knitting. I have two finished objects to show you today. I'm very proud of them. Did quite a lot of knitting actually the past couple of days, and I'll get into why in the end of the podcast when I talk about life stuff. But I did get these two finished. Let's see if I can get them on the blockers. One is a pair of socks, of course, and they are not socks that are going to fit properly on my blockers because they are the socks that I knit for my aunt, who, as I've mentioned before, is a very small woman with very, very small feet. So anyway, I'm stuck on my sweater. Hold on. There we go. So yes, I finished my aunt's socks. They are all complete, and they don't fit on the blockers at all because they fit my 10-year-old daughter. I knit these out of Knitterly Things Vesper sock in the colorway Rainbow Love, which is one of her more famous colorways and kind of an older one. I've had this skein for quite a long time. And I did my regular sock recipe with a Turkish cast-on toe up. I did a true afterthought heel, and then did one by one ribbing with Jenny's surprisingly stretchy bind off. And I used a different color for the heel because I decided to. So I got some nerd string, a mini of nerd string at the yarn shop, my local yarn shop, which is Colorful Yarns in Centennial. And I used that for the heel. Sorry for the blowout. The oranges are slightly different, but I don't think it's too much of an issue. And so, yeah. So those are done, and that's half of one of the squares for my bingo. For the bingo that I am, crafty bingo that I am doing through Erin of Bling Your String, through her group on Ravelry. You basically filled out a bingo card with knitting goals, and one of the goals that I put on my card was to knit my Aunt Kathy 2 pairs of socks this year, so this is one, so I'm halfway through marking off that square. Speaking of Erin, I did want to mention, she is one half of the Bling Your String, no, she is one half of the Knitting with Tiffany, Knitting at Tiffany's with Added Bling podcast, which she does. It's kind of a buddy podcasting format with her friend Tiffany, and it's a great podcast, and I watch it and I really enjoy it. But Erin is a very prolific knitter, and so so like me, she puts out quite a lot of projects, and she would also like to be able to kind of feature her shop a little bit more, Bling Your String, where she makes handmade project bags and other hand-sewn knitting items, you know, needle minders for DPNs and other things. I think that she makes stitch markers and those kinds of things, and then she also hand dyes yarn. And so so she has decided to have, in addition to the podcast that she does with Tiffany, she's going to do, I think it's a weekly podcast on her own channel, which is called She Must Knit, and it's with a period in between the words. So She Must Knit, she.must.knit, and she just put out her first podcast on Friday, I believe. So I would encourage you to check it out. She is a wonderful knitter, very talented, and a really neat person, and I like her a lot. I'm very proud to be able to call her a personal friend of mine, even though we live in separate countries. She's Canadian, and yeah, so she's doing, you know, her podcast talking about some of her knitting things, and then she's also kind of coming up with themes to put in her shop and show them on the podcast. So I would recommend you check it out. I will of course leave a link to her shop down below. So anyway, that is my first FO. My second FO, is my snowflake sweater. It's all done, guys. Yay! Now, I haven't blocked it yet, and honestly, I'm not sure if I'm gonna. I might spray the bottom, pin it just flat down, and then spray it, because it does tend to want to flip up a little bit. It doesn't flip up when I'm wearing it, but it does like to flip up when it's just kind of hanging out. But I don't think that the lace really needs to be blocked very much. When I put it on, it's kind of like hand knit socks. When you put them on, they kind of mold to your feet, and so you don't really need to block them. It's the same with this lace panel as well, and so and I don't need to add any size, I don't need to add to the size by blocking it. So so yeah. But it is complete. This is the Snowflake Sweater by Tin Can Knits. I knitted out of the Verdant Griffin in her Traveler DK base, which is a DK. The colorways I used are Dirty Deeds done with sheep for the purple, and then Madagascan Sunset Moth for the rest of it. And I just absolutely love how the Madagascan Sunset Moth knit up. It's just such a wonderful color. I, of course, alternated skeins on the body. I chose not to alternate skeins on the sleeves, however, and I will say that, let's see if I can show you guys. One sleeve is slightly more purple. You see the sleeve on the bottom, slightly more purple than the other, but it doesn't bother me. Unless you're really looking for it, I don't think you'd notice. I'm not going to mess with it. The sleeve has some nice details. You do a button cuff for the sleeve, which I liked a lot. I didn't realize that. I didn't notice it in the picture. So that was kind of cool. And I did 3/4 length sleeves, as I've mentioned before, and it's a really good thing that I did, because this is how much yarn I had left of the first skein, and this is how much yarn I had left of the second. So I would not have had enough to be able to do full sleeves. I did say that I was thinking about doing a bit of the purple here, like I did on the body, but I chose not to in the end. I didn't want to have to weave in any more ends, honestly. So yeah, and then the buttons, I picked the buttons for two reasons. One, they were ones that I had in my stash and they fit. the holes. And two, I thought they went really well with the Madagascan Sunset Moth, and I kind of like the fact that they're a contrast to the purple of the Dirty Deeds Done with Sheep. So I think it really brings the colors together. I will post a picture of me wearing the sweater so you can see it on my body and kind of see it in better lighting. The lighting is really bad today, and I apologize for that. But yeah, it is done. I have an entire skein of the Dirty Deeds Done with Sheep and probably 25 to 30 grams of it as well. So I'll have to find something to use that for. I'm sure that I will find something. It's a wonderful base. It's 100% merino, and I absolutely love knitting with it. So I do recommend it. I really like the Verdant Griffin's dyeing. So yeah, so that is another sweater that was part of my bingo. So that's another square marked off on my bingo. Let me grab my bingo card, hang on. So it's just a piece of paper that I printed out, so it's not very nice, and it's been kind of put through the ringer a little bit. But here is my bingo card. I don't know if you can see that. But you notice that I have my first bingo. The idea of the crafty bingo is to do a full blackout, so I'm not stopping even though I have a bingo. And let's see here, trying to read it through the back. Knit my 3 oldest skeins. I've done 2 of that, and I'm working on the 3rd one now. And then knit 6 hippos for the holidays. I've done 3 of those, and I'm working on the 4th one now. Knit each girl a hat. I've done 1 of those. So did Delaney's hat, and I'll get to Tatum's hopefully in the next month. Where is the one for Aunt Kathy? Make Uncle 2 pairs, 3 sock blanks. There you go. Make Aunt Kathy 2 pairs of socks. I'm reading it through the back of the page. I'm reading it like that. It's not easy. Anyway, so I've just finished 1 pair. I'll have to do the other one. What else am I close to doing? Tear out the splash of blue and reuse the yarn. I'm halfway through that. I've torn it out. I haven't reused the yarn. This one will take me all year, of course. Knit the Rainbow Dash socks. I started those, but they're kind of slow going. Knit the Boss sweater. I started that too, and then tore it out and picked out some different yarn to knit with it, so I just got to start it again. Where is Cristi-Lael? Oh. And then right here is Knit the Snowflake sweater. So I can mark this one off. It is done, and I only have 2 more to do a bingo in that direction. So very happy that that is done. I hope that wasn't annoying looking at that list. I have no idea what it looked like because the paper was completely in front of my face. I may end up editing it out if it was bad. Okay, so that is all the FOs that I have, but I do have some whips. Actually, I have a hoe I can show you. Last week, I had showed you that I had just the toe on my Hippo for Easter's 2018 socks. So I have managed to finish the first sock. It's completely done. Isn't it cute? The Hippo for Easter speckles came out a lot better in this skein. The skein that I got last year was really light. This one is very nicely speckled, and I love how it turned out. I used my regular recipe, only I did a fish lips kiss heel, and I haven't woven in the ends. That's why that heel looks loose. Like there's a hole there. There isn't a hole there. I just need to weave in the ends. So yeah, I did my regular recipe except for the Fish Lips Kiss Heel, and I used a little Lolo. Well, this is Hippo for Easter 2018 by Lolo Did It, and then this is a little Lolo in Julep, which I think complements it very nicely. And that's the first sock, and I haven't done the second sock yet, of course, but I will be doing it very soon, and I will definitely have it done by next week. And I feel like I'm a little bit ahead for April in regards to socks, because last month I was kind of running out of time a little bit, so it's nice not to feel like I've run out of time. The other sock whip that I have is part of my 3 oldest skeins. I mentioned earlier that I had that one on the needles, and I am making good progress with that one as well. I love this colorway. I love this color combination. This makes me so happy. Sorry for the bad lighting. So this is Trailing Clouds in her sock base, and the colorway is Blythe, B-L-Y-T-H-E, Blythe, or Blythe. Anyway, absolutely enjoying this. You can see my little stitch marker right there. I have passed where the heel is, and so I've just got to finish up the leg, and I will do an afterthought heel. These are going very nicely. I'm enjoying them quite a lot. And then my last whip is my Noodle, which is a pattern by Susan Claudino. I mentioned that I was knitting that. I mentioned to you guys last week that I was knitting it for my entry for the KAL, and here is what I've got so far of Noodle. Noodle has a body and a head and eyes and a nose and a snout, and I'm not really sure that Noodle is as cute as like Susan Claudino's, but you know, I've really never knit stuffies, really. I think I started a sock monkey once and then never finished it. So so yeah, I had a little difficulty. I don't know if you can tell, but I had a little difficulty getting Noodle's snout on there properly. I'm still not sure. It's a little funky. And I'll post a picture of what Noodle looks like when, you know, the master, Susan Claudino, knits her. And you'll notice there's like that white felt around the eyes. I don't have any felt. And I told Delaney that I would make sure to knit her another Noodle with maybe some solid yarn and get the felt. But she really wants this guy done, and I didn't know when I was going to make it to the store to get felt. So there you go. Noodle. Next I'll work on his ears, and then some arms and legs and a tail, and he'll be done. I don't think it'll take me too much longer. But Noodle takes more. I need to pay more attention. I could totally do it while watching TV, but I'm not watching a lot of TV right now, and I will explain that when I get into life stuff at the end. But yeah, Noodle's kind of slow going because of that. All right, so that is all of the things that I have on the needles. So I guess we can talk about yarn haul. Forgot what it was called. And I had shown you a decent yarn haul that I had gotten in D-Stash last week, and I told you that I had made another purchase from that particular D-Stasher. And I did, and it came, and I've made another purchase from her as well. Her prices are very good, and there's lots of yarns that of dyers that I really wanted to try out, or are dyers that I love. So for the prices, I couldn't really I couldn't say no. A couple of people asked me about D-Stashes. A D-Stash is basically somebody who wants to sell yarn or other knitting supplies that they have owned and decided they don't want to own anymore. Generally, destashes are cheaper than buying it from the dyer itself because you're getting the yarn secondhand. Even though, really, I mean, with very few exceptions, knitters take care of their yarns. So you're going to get it in pretty much the same condition as you would have if you got it from the dyer, but because it has had the potential to come in contact with animals or, you know, maybe smoke or fur or dandruff or, you know, I don't know, not dandruff, but dander, or other things that are, you know, other smells and allergens that are in people's houses. You know, the people tend to destash them for a couple of bucks cheaper. If you find a destasher that is selling it for the same price as the dyer, well, if I find a destasher that's selling it for the same price as the dyer, I don't personally buy from them, because if I wanted to do that, I would have bought it from the dyer. There are some exceptions to that, some very highly sought after yarn where you can't get it from the dyer easily. That I feel justifies a higher price. I remember when Woolmiza was first coming over to the United States, or to North America, or to the Americas, and it was really hard to get a hold of. Their updates ended up being at like 2 a.m. Our time, and so very few people could get a hold of it, and her updates would sell out in seconds. So skeins of Woolmiza were destashing for higher, sometimes $5 to $10 higher than it cost to buy it from the company directly. There have only been once or twice when I have seen that happen. Mostly, you know, for me personally, even if it is a dyer that I have a hard time catching an update of, I still want to get it for a little bit cheaper from a destash. Now, some people are destashing because they just are tired of the yarn and they just don't want it anymore, or they've had a sweater quantity and they have one skein left over and they don't want it anymore, or they change their mind about the base or the colorway, or, you know, that kind of thing. And then there's not much pressure for them to destash. And then there are people who are looking to sell their yarn to use that money for something that they need or something that they want. You know, they want to go on a trip, or they want to go on a yarn crawl, and they want to be able to buy a bunch of yarn without having to feel guilty about it. So they'll sell a bunch of yarn they don't want and then use that money towards their yarn crawl. Or they, you know, they've had a car accident, or their dog has gotten sick, or their kid has gotten sick, and they've got a surprise bill that they now need to deal with, so they will destash some yarn. And with those, they tend to be a little bit more willing to sell it a little bit cheaper because they're trying to get rid of it. I don't know the story about this particular lady, but she is selling everything at a very reasonable price, and so yeah, sometimes I come across that where they seem like it's like the perfect destasher. They have so much yarn that I want, and it's for prices that I could really, you know, feel good about purchasing several skeins, and so I will go a little hog wild. The way that I normally come across destashes, and again, it's like a crapshoot. You know, I don't come across a great one very often, and, you know, it's like once every couple of years, maybe once a year, I will hit a very great destash and buy a bunch of yarn. But generally, it's like one skein here and there, and it's, I will either be looking for the yarn, I will go to the yarn page, like let's say I really want to try out Stranded Dye Works, which is Amy in the UK, and I have some of hers, but she's one of the dyers who her updates sell pretty quickly. You know, you kind of have to get it on that day, and otherwise you'll miss out. So let's say that I've missed her updates because she's in the UK and her updates are very early in the morning for me in, you know, Mountain Standard Time. And so I will go on Ravelry to the Stranded Dye Works yarn page, whichever base I want. Let's just say her Oasis base, which is her main one. And then I will look across the tabs, across the top, it will say, you know, stashed so many times, projects so many times, and, you know, buying options and comments and whatnot. I'll go to stashed, and normally Ravelry's like default is that they will put the yarn that is for sale or trade first. Those stash listings will be first, and so you just look through them, and you know, I look through and I see which ones are colorways that I want, which ones are in the United States. I tend to buy from the United States because it's cheaper, because I have to pay for shipping. And then I look for prices that I want to pay. Generally, U.S. shippers, U.S. destashers will include U.S. shipping in their destashes. So it's a nice, just a flat rate. You know, I will sell this skein for $20, including U.S. shipping. I know that I just PayPal them $20 and they will ship me the yarn, and that's great. There's been a few times when I've really needed a specific colorway or a specific yarn, and I've paid for it to come from another country, and you pay a little extra in shipping that way because it's expensive to ship, you know, nationally or internationally rather. Another way that that I look for destashes, and these generally, when I do this, it's generally because I am bored. So it's best if I'm busy doing something, because then I don't look as much. But there is an ISO and destash group on Ravelry, and I will link it down below. It's ISO in search of and destash. You can go there if you're looking for a specific yarn. You know, you're making a sweater, and you've found out that you're going to be, you know, a skein short, and so you can go in and say, I need this skein in this this yarn in this colorway in this dye lot. Does somebody have some that they're willing to trade or sell to me? And I've done that a couple of times when I've already gone to the yarn page and haven't been able to find anybody who has it in their stash, because a lot of people don't list their yarn on Ravelry, although the OCD in me just cringes at that, because I mean, I'm very anal about putting my yarn in Ravelry and my projects and everything, basically. So anyway, I will sometimes go and look in the ISO and destash group, and people just post their destashes. And when I'm looking to sell yarn, that's where I will post it. I will just make a post and say, I'm selling all my yarn, everything includes US shipping, and then provide a link, and then people can see what I am destashing. I haven't destashed in a long time though, because I'm kind of what you would call stash happy. Everything that I have, really, I'm in love with. And so yeah, I just kind of hold on to it all, and then I want to knit it eventually. So part of that is because a lot of the stash, because I have spent so much time over the past 2 years, year and a half, knitting up old stash. Most everything that I have now in my stash is stuff that I've bought since 2016. So last year and the year before, and then this year. And so it's all still fairly new, and so I haven't had a chance to fall out of love with it. So anyway, that's kind of how I come across these destashes, and sometimes you'll find people that want to sell it for a very high price, and I have no interest in buying it, and sometimes I find it for a very great price, but I have no money. But yeah, I just kind of go through and look every couple of months or so. I will check out the destash group, and I normally find at least one thing that that I will love forever, or at least until I don't anymore, and then I destash it myself. Okay, so this particular destash, I've been very impressed. She has a lot of indie dyers that I really, as I said, I really wanted to try out, or ones that I've already tried that I really love. So this is the most recent order that I have gotten from her. I just got a shipping notification on the last order that I made, so that should be here by the time I podcast next. So first I got a skein of Life in the Long Grass, which is an indie dyer that I had wanted to try. This is, I'm not sure what this base is called, but it is a 75-25 460 yard merino blend, and the colorway is Meadow. And I really love the subtlety of it. You know, kind of blues and greens, a little bit of brown. So this will, almost all of this is planned for socks. So just know that ahead of time. Next one is one that I haven't heard of before, but I really just love this skein. It is the Casual Fashion Queen in her 75-25 merino blend, and the colorway is PP Hummingbones, and I just thought it was so pretty. Just such a pretty colorway with all of those colors. So there's that. This is another one, Groovy Hyper Fibers, Groovy Hues Fibers. Also, no, this one's an 80-20 merino blend. Colorway is Twisted and Groovin'. No, sorry, the base is Twisted and Grooving. The colorway is Happy Mother's Day. Sorry. I hadn't heard of this one before either, but I couldn't say no to the bright. So, yeah. I'm very tempted to knit this into a pair of socks for my mom for Mother's Day, but I'm not sure if I'm going to get ahead enough to be able to do that. Next, I got a skein of Andre Sue Knits. I'd forgotten that she did hand-dyed yarn before she started doing her sock blanks. So this is an older skein. I don't know that she does yarn skeins anymore. I think she just does sock blanks. But this is an 80-20 merino blend, and the colorway is Sugar Skulls. I think this might be a striper. I'm not sure. I guess we'll find out. But I liked it. I'm not so keen on the pink, of course, but I like all the other colors in it. This last one is an example of a dyer that I already love, so I wanted to get it because I already knew that I would love it, and that is White Birch Fibers. White Birch Fiber Arts. They are a self-striping color dyer. I knit a pair of gloves and fingerless gloves and a hat last year out of her DK base in the colorway Nothing Says Screw You Like a Rainbow. They have very fun colorway names. This one is called Purple Rain Bow. Purple Rain Bow, like Prince. And actually, the order that I just made is 90% White Birch Fiber Arts, so you will see a lot of her stripers next week. And actually, there might be even more, because White Birch Fiber Arts is one of the few indie dyers that I recognized that are going to be at Yarn Fest, Interweave's Yarn Fest in what, 2 weeks? So I'll be going there, so I might even find more to buy there. So yeah. I do have one other skein to show you, and that is from Gauge Dye Works, and this is one that I've been trying to get for the longest time. I saw it knit up on Tracy and Jody's, the Grocery Girls podcast. I believe that Tracy was asked to knit up a sample of the colorway, and I was just in love with it. Gauge Dye Works does self-striping, and they do them for socks, and then they have special ones for shawls, so you get longer stripe repeats. And this is a sock skein, and it is in the colorway All Together Now. And this isn't going to show up as pretty as it is. It doesn't look as good in the skein as the socks do knit up, so I will post a picture of what the socks look like knit up, and you can see why I really wanted this colorway. This was a pre-order. Thankfully they they finally put it in as a pre-order instead of just people trying to get it in their updates, and so I was able to pre-order it, and I waited quite a long time for it to come, but it was totally worth the wait. Super excited about it. And that is all the yarn haul that I have for this week. So just talk really quickly about books. I only really have 2 books to talk about. One is that I finished A Gathering of Shadows by V.E. Schwab. I gave this 4 stars. I liked it quite a lot, but I will say that I think I liked the first book a little bit better. This one kind of reminded me, it's kind of the equivalent of the Goblet of Fire for the Harry Potter series. And that's kind of, it was kind of reminiscent of that. So Goblet of Fire has never been my favorite Harry Potter book either. My favorite Harry Potter book is The Prisoner of Azkaban, if you were wondering. But yeah, so it's good, very enjoyable, but and necessary, but it still was a little bit placeholdery, I think, for the series, for the trilogy. However, I will say that I am glad that I started reading this series after it had already come out, after the trilogy had already come out, because this ends on a major cliffhanger, and I absolutely hate having to wait to find out what happened on a major cliffhanger. So, because it ended on a cliffhanger, I went ahead and picked up the final book right away, and that is A Conjuring of Light. This one is a biggin. It is 670 pages, so it's going to take me a while to get through. I think it's like 18 hours on the audio, but I am working my way through it, and I'm, I don't know, about 100 pages in. Yeah, just about 100 pages in. I am enjoying it quite a lot. It starts out with lots of action, so there's not that, like it immediately starts where what is it called? The Gathering of Shadows ends. So there's not, you don't have to like do the whole recap thing. It just goes straight into the story. And because A Gathering of Shadows ended on such a cliffhanger, there was lots going on. It's lots and lots of action. So I am really, really enjoying this whole trilogy. I'm so glad that I'm finally reading it. And really, that's kind of all that I'm reading that is of note when it comes to novels. I am reading a book at bedtime, but it's just a fluff YA book. It's not really worth talking about. But I've alluded to not having a lot of TV time and yet having a lot of knitting time, and that is because I am studying hard for my CLEP tests. Now, you might recall that I was going to take a CLEP test on Friday, this past Friday, and I did take it. Unfortunately, I got a 49 when I needed to get a 50 to pass. So I didn't pass it. I know. Womp womp. I was disappointed, but like if I had to choose between the two, I'd rather have gotten the job and failed the test than not gotten the job and passed the test. So I figured that was was like the trade-off, and it was worth the sacrifice of the test to get the job. However, that does mean that I now still have 3 tests yet to take, and it does mean that I have to pay for the CLEP test again, because you can only take them once per registration. So that I've kind of lost out on that money. Thankfully, it is still just a very small percentage of how much it would cost to take the class. Each test costs about $100, and the class costs about $2,000. So I'm still going to end up in the black. But part of the reason why I struggled so much with the first test, even though I passed it, and then with this test, is that I am getting these, there isn't a like a definitive study guide that I can get. It's not like I can just get a book and read the book and then go and take the test and know that I'm going to do well. There are different companies that have put out study guides, but they're not always reliable. And the two tests that I have taken, American Literature and Human Growth and Development, both the study guides were from the same company, and they were very, condensed, and I thought they would be good, but I have found with both, there was several questions on the test, several subjects that were asked about on the test that I had no idea about because they weren't in my study book. And that was what was stressing me out the most. It's like, I have no problem studying, and I'll study for days and days and days, but I gotta know what I'm supposed to study, and it was frustrating because I don't test well, and I stress out about the tests. I have, my anxiety issues, and taking a test really sets my anxiety into hyperdrive. So, when you add to the fact that I'm not even able to feel prepared for the test, because I don't know if I'm studying the right things, it was just causing me a lot of problems. So I came home from the test on Friday feeling frustrated and upset and just, anxious and kind of depressed about the whole thing, because I'm like, how am I going to pass these if I don't know what to study? So I did some research, and I found that there is a company that puts out a free, individually paced, independent rather, online course for each of the CLEP tests, and they are a mixture of videos, lectures that are done by college professors who teach in the area of the test, and then excerpts from, I'm assuming, textbooks or that, or just writings from the professors themselves. And so it's a really good program. If you have any kids, or if you yourself are finishing up high school or looking to go back to college, worried about how much it's going to cost, this whole program is called Free Freshman Year, I think. The idea is that they're encouraging people who need to get just that first year of general education and don't have a lot of money. They're offering these online courses, and like I said, they're independent, so it's at your own pace. They're offering these online courses for free that prepare you for the CLEP test. So you can take enough tests to get all the credits that you would need for the equivalent of your freshman year of college. And all you have to do is pay for the tests. So it's quite a lot cheaper, especially if you're looking at like a 4-year college. And you have to of course make sure that the university that you're planning on going to allow or accepts CLEP tests for credit. Not all of them do, but I will say that Grand Canyon University does. In fact, they encourage CLEP testing. But yeah, I think it's a great program, and I'm able to take advantage of it as well, even though I'm not a freshman, but because I'm looking to take these tests for general education. So I am studying like a madwoman on the next CLEP test using their online course, and it is social sciences and history. So it's like a little bit of world history, a lot of American history, and then some economics and some geography and that kind of thing. So the course is extensive. I'm finding it very interesting, but it's a lot of watching these lectures, and then reading. While I am doing that, I am knitting. And so this sock that I showed you earlier, I had just the toe done yesterday, and while I was studying yesterday, I knit almost all of this. Which is great. So it's allowing me to study and still maintain my productivity when it comes to my knitting. Unfortunately, it means that I can only knit on socks, basically, just something that I don't have to look at all. So my noodle dog is something that I have to pay attention to more. So but it's a lot of reading, and I'm trying to, I start my new job in May, and I don't want to have to ask for time off to take a test from a new job. That just doesn't seem like it would be a very responsible thing to do. And the testing center that I go to does not offer testing on Saturdays or the evenings. So I kind of have to do them during normal business hours. So my plan is to take 2 of the remaining tests that I have, social sciences and history, and then natural science before May. So that's a lot, and I'm having to really amp up my studying in order to get it done. So I will take the social sciences and history test next Thursday, the 12th, and then I will take the remaining test, natural sciences, on the 26th, I believe, 25th or 26th, which is right before we go to graduation. My graduation ceremony, commencement ceremony, is going to be on the 28th, and I'm very excited about it. We've got this trip down to Arizona planned, and it's just so awesome because, like I said, my brother and my husband are all graduating together. Ron and I will graduate in the same ceremony. Justin, my brother's, is going to be in the afternoon. Ours is in the morning, but it's still on the same day. And my parents are going to be there, my uncle's going to be there, and my kids are going to be there, and it's just going to be really cool. But when I come back from graduation, I will be starting my new job. So I'm going to get those 2 tests done before we leave, and then I originally was going to try to take all 3 of them before we left, but there's just not enough time in the day with me working. And like I said, I'm almost working. Well, I'm working 5 days a week right now because it's the end of tax season. So there's, even though I'm not working a full day all 5 days, I'm still working 5 hours a day, and it just doesn't leave enough time in the evenings for me to read and watch all the stuff that I need to read and watch. So I'm going to take the 2, and I feel a lot more positive about them. I really feel like with these online courses, I'm going to be prepared for the test. So I don't expect that I will have a problem passing them, even though these are big ones. These are actually worth 6 credits each, so it's like the equivalent of a class and a half with each of them. But the American literature that I failed, I have to wait 6 weeks before I can retake it, because that is the rules. And so I will probably take that after I've been at this new job for a month or 2. I don't have to have it done. I mean, I won't get my diploma. I'll still be able to go through the commencement ceremony, but I just won't get my diploma until I finish that last class, and that's okay. Ron still has a class that he has to finish as well that won't start until after the commencement ceremony. So so neither of us will get our diplomas when we actually go through commencement, when we walk the stage. But that's, like I said, that's not a big deal. So yeah, so that is my plan. So you'll actually probably see a lot of socks over the next 3 weeks. I managed to knit, almost a pair of socks just over the weekend, just from studying. So, so yeah, just be prepared for that. Okay, I think that's it. I've got to edit this as quick as possible and then get to studying. I will say that I'm finding it very interesting. I'm in the world history section of the course now, and I love history. History is very interesting. So if I hadn't decided to do accounting, and if I thought I could actually make a living at it, I might have gone into history. I just really, finding out about past people just enthralls me. So anyway, okay, that's it, guys. I'm gonna let you go. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your Tuesday. Today is Tuesday, and happy knitting.